What's the word, y'all? Oda has said it many times before that if Shanks were to appear ever so often in the series, that it would ultimately spark the beginning of the end of the One Piece saga. And it just so happens that Shanks has now appeared in back-to-back chapters once again, which I need to tell you is incredibly rare. The last and only time Shanks has ever appeared in back-to-back chapters was all the way back in Marineford. One of One Piece's poster child, someone we met all the way back in chapter 1, has only 20 total chapter appearances and has only appeared in one back-to-back chapter and now 2, including this one. In fact, if you put it on percentage, Shanks has appeared in 2.3% of the total One Piece manga as we know it. Don't fact check me on this one, I am totally correct. With very little we know of him, everybody has been asking, what is Shanks' real role in all of this? Why is Oda calling him the chosen one? Why is Shanks going after the One Piece just now? Is he a good guy? Is he a villain? Is he a rat? What is Shanks' master plan in all of this? That is what we're asking in today's video. Spoilers for Elbaf, so if you're not caught up, please don't watch this video. Subscribe, like, support more creators like me, and fuck Jack. First off, I kind of want to establish who Shanks is in the story and why he's possibly the most mysterious character in One Piece history. First of all, let's start with his entire name. Fingerland Shanks, son of Fingerland Garling, the commander of the God's Knights, now a Gurusei. He went to Dawn Island with a Gamu Gamu no Mi. Luffy eats the Gamu Gamu no Mi, gives his hat, and sacrificed his arm, which we now know to be a very important sacrifice later on, since that very same arm may have contained a God's Knight's contract mark by Imu. Whenever it was working or not, who knows, since everybody with the contract is bound by Imu. Maybe Shanks found an easier way. Since everyone with the contract mark is bound by Imu, maybe Shanks found a way to, sever the ties and still kept, his arm intact. Maybe he just gave up the arm as, just remove it as a reminder that, he was once a slave for the world government. Sort of like how Boa and her sisters hide the mark of being of slaves, by wearing sleeves and stuff. So yes, we can either go one or two ways on why Shanks sacrificed his arm. Shanks either let the Lord of the Coast just sever it so he could be free of its reminder, or the fact that Shanks was still bound by Imu, which is why he made that sacrifice to sever up the contract. Again, we will never know until, more chapters, until we get 5 more years, the Shanks backstory comes up and oh shit. But again, I think the ultimate goal for Shanks on that moment was just, which is to give Luffy some inspiration. About 6 years after he left Dawn Island, he had risen to the ranks of Yonko in the New World with only one hand. That's important to reminder, shout out to the Mihawk fans out there. We can assume that, Shanks didn't necessarily beat up a Yonko, a former Yonko or something like that. A lot of fans are saying oh, he beat up Shiki and all that, but no. The real reason why Shanks became a Yonko was because, maybe the fact that Loki was just running a ruckus in the New World in the same time, in the same 6-year span as Shanks becoming a Yonko. So the timelines kind of correlate, and we know that Shanks and, Loki have bad blood. Maybe we got bad blood. Maybe Shanks saw him in the New World, put the hammer down and stomp his giant ass and chained it up, Shanks still up to his, celestial dragon blood, and still being a little racist, to the, other races of the One Piece world, but, that's him, okay? Now that we got a little recap of how Shanks became Shanks, what is Shanks' real plan in all of this? What is his big little plan that he can't say to anyone, can't say to do, he can't say that, he can't say this? Now, my theory for Shanks, this mysterious plan that he's been having, a lot of people being confused right now. My theory is that Shanks knows everything. And him knowing everything might be One Piece's biggest twist yet. It's all about the Willow D, the Void Century, the One Piece, why Roger was too early, and that's why he refused to go after the One Piece after Roger died. If we're still going with the theory that Roger was too early, isn't it in Roger's best interest to have a successor? Someone to cramp everything together, to put forth the events of what's to come. Checking things to see if they fit in the same place as the so-called prophecy put forth, because Roger was already gonna die very soon, and the rest of the Roger pirates are just gonna be too old when the appointed time comes. So I think Roger told Shanks about his bloodline, the prophecy, and the Joy Boy, and all about the One Piece, and told him to make sure everything happens into place. And again, I'm gonna tell you guys why Shanks is going after the One Piece now, like more than ever. Because Shanks knowing this, whenever he learned it from Roger or from other people, or you know, just him in general, him knowing that he can't be the one to find the One Piece, that he isn't the one Roger was looking for, makes him super mad. And again, why? Why are you thinking like, why does Shanks get mad? You know? Well, think about this, okay? Your mentor, your father figure, has just told you the person that he chose, the one who gave his hat, is not you. Think about Buggy's dilemma. He wants to go after the One Piece after Roger's speech. You know, Shanks just hearing this, knowing what he knows, oh shit, I can't be the one to find the One Piece because it gotta be a Joy Boy or a Willa D type of character. I am not the one. I am never the one, but I still want to go. Deep inside, he still loves her. I don't love her though. Deep inside of Shanks, he still wants to go after the One Piece. But again, why is he not the chosen one? Why can't he just eat the Nika fruit and just like be done with it? Because he knows he's not the chosen one. First of all, he got no Willa D. He's a celestial dragon. He doesn't have the legendary Nika fruit. So all of these things are just, you know, put forth. Maybe Shanks was like, oh, I want to eat the Nika fruit. I want to be Joy Boy. Then Roger was like, you can't. Because brother, you're a celestial dragon. And again, that might be the reason why Shanks didn't go after the One Piece straight away. Because he knows he can't have it. He can't find the One Piece. But that's his dream. He knows you can't have it. He's still trying to get it because, again, that's like the story of One Piece, bro. Okay, again, think about this in my point of view, okay? Shanks wants to find the One Piece, but he knows he can't have it. So maybe, here's what he did. He created and groomed Luffy. Okay, maybe groom is not the right word because that's kind of fucking weird. You know, he ate the, you know, Nika fruit, all that stuff. He has the Willa D, check. He wants Luffy to find it first and beat him to get the One Piece. What did Shanks... Hear me out. Why did Shanks tell Luffy when giving him the hat, come give it to me once you're stronger? Why did Shanks only announce that he's going after the One Piece once Luffy achieved Gear 5? Because he is ready now. He knows Luffy is ready now to take him down, put forth to the ultimate goal, which is the One Piece. I know it sounds crazy, but it's better than like, oh, Shanks is just evil guy. He's a rat. He's a world government helper. Think about, you know, you're not the one, but you're so focused in that goal, man. Just like Buggy or something like that. Maybe it's the Buggy dilemma. That's why it is. Maybe it's the Mihawk dilemma. Again, everything leads back to Mihawk. Mihawk trains Zoro to beat him. And just look at this toilet. Look at this fucking toilet. Like, what the fuck is this? Sorry for the weird tangent, but what the fuck is that toilet? There's no fucking tissue paper. Where does he fucking wipe? So I'm just saying that Shanks is a jealous kid? No, maybe more deeper than that. Who knows? But even minding his own goals, his own like what the heart wants, what the heart needs, he still found a way to shape the One Piece world as we know it. Whenever or not he was waiting for Ace or Luffy, or you know, he's just planning his own, trying to get the One Piece, Shanks was still maybe on purposely bringing, you know, being the guardian of the will of the people. Now let's talk about why Shanks had to join the God's Knights, which is to find the legendary fruit that no one has seemed to find yet, the Nika fruit, which he needs to complete the prophecy. He needs to find the Nika fruit, find all the will of the people, and give that Nika fruit. Hope they reach One Piece, and hopefully along the way he beats, you know, that will of the person beats Shanks up to get the One Piece, because he'll never stop going after the One Piece, and in the wrong hands the world will be, you know, fucked. And again, that would be the perfect way to set Shanks up as a, you know, not as a villain, as a roadblock. Luffy, you can't have this. I love the One Piece. It's actually a big hentai girl. Sorry Luffy, I gotta have it. Shanks, I don't care if you're my friend, you're going down. My dream is to become the One Piece. Who knows? Maybe the One Piece is like Luffy and Nami having sex. So that's why Shanks became a God Knight. That's why he fooled everyone, even Imu, his own dad, his own brother, of, him pretending he was racist. That was all part of the plan. All those fish people with gills, water breeders, they're a bunch of fishes. They're fucking gillers, man. He was pretending. Sure, Shanks, we know you're pretending. Just so he can find clues about Emu, about the Void Century, the world. He can get stronger on the way, he can get smarter, learn more about, everything, the world. Also, I know there's this weird theory that Shanks was actually the one talking to Gorosei in the Reverie arc about this certain pirate. I think for 100% fact that was Shamrock. I think people just, they're too wild, bro. Cause I don't think Shanks can just walk like that to a Gorosei and just ask for like a meeting. I don't think that will happen. I think that will only happen if, if it was Shamrock, if it was a God Knight. But again, if the God Knights were there in Reverie, why didn't they help them in, beating up the revolutionaries? Because they haven't been made yet. But wait, you're probably asking, what else did Shanks do during his time as a racist? Well, he fought Blackbeard, obviously, got the scar, chatted with Harold, freed some slaves along the way after gathering intel that, the world government doesn't know anything about the whereabouts of the legendary fruit. Because we know he rejected the world government contract, so maybe he just dipped after knowing like, oh, I'ma follow my own leads now. That's why he went to Elbaf to do his own research, meet up with my old man Gaban. But we know the fruit ended up in East Blue. He stayed in East Blue, formed a crew there, maybe went to Fuchsia Village to find Ace, Roger's son, but saw someone more worthy, which was Monkey D. Goofy. I know there's a lot of theories that Shanks is evil or he's gonna betray Luffy, but I think all those theories are pretty great. But Shanks being this evil guy, I can never see Oda, doing that, okay? But Shanks being a roadblocker and saying like, oh, I'm going after the One Piece, Luffy, we are not friends, we are pirates, I'm stopping you from achieving your goal. What are you gonna do? Just because we're friends doesn't mean you can't fuck me in the ass. He knows Luffy is the one, but he loves the One Piece, he loves his goal. That's why he tried to mold Luffy into someone who can beat him to take over his dream. Maybe not trying to mold, maybe give him, the keys to just, I don't know, okay? Again, I might be wrong. Please don't hurt me in the comments below. Subscribe, like, support small creators. I love you guys. Real one, say it back.